Have you ever heard a story that completely defies the odds? One where hope seems lost, only for fate to step in and change everything. This is one of those stories. William Johnson, a dedicated police officer, made a life-changing decision when he adopted 6 black girls who were left orphaned after a tragedy no child should ever face. But what happens when a man takes on such an overwhelming challenge, alone? For many, the story could have ended there. A single white man adopting 6 black girls. The skepticism was real. The challenges seemed endless. Racial prejudice, cultural barriers, the weight of raising 6 children alone, all odds stacked against them. Yet William wasn't just anyone. He was driven by something more powerful than doubt. But before we dive into the story, comment below where you're watching from today. And if you enjoy stories with unexpected twists and life-changing moments, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. William Johnson had faced many challenging situations in his long career as a police officer. He was used to the unexpected, but nothing could have prepared him for the emotional impact of a tragedy that would set him on the path to an extraordinary decision. That fateful night, William responded to a call about a severe accident involving a couple. When he arrived at the scene, he learned that the parents of 6 girls had lost their lives. There, sitting in silence with tear-streaked faces and lost eyes, were the 6 orphaned sisters. Their pain was evident, and William's heart ached. As he watched the girls, something shifted deep within him. He knew he had to do something beyond his professional duty. The idea of separating them into different foster homes disturbed him. The instinct to adopt them was born in that very moment, strong, undeniable, and immediate. The following days were an emotional whirlwind for William. He, a single man with no children, began considering the idea of becoming a father to those 6 girls. The decision didn't come without reflection, but the love that was already growing inside him for those girls made it impossible to ignore. In his visits to the temporary shelter where they were staying, William found himself drawn to each girl's unique personality, trying to understand their pain and their differences. Each girl dealt with their grief in a different way, and it was watching these individual struggles that cemented William's resolve. He knew he couldn't just let them be dispersed into the foster system. They had already lost so much. Keeping them together was now his mission, no matter the challenges ahead. They had suffered enough, and he would be the one to offer them a new chance at life. Amara, the oldest at 12, carried the weight of the world on her shoulders. She tried to be the protector of her younger sisters, though she was clearly crumbling inside. Her gaze revealed a forced maturity, as if she had suddenly become an adult in her parents' absence. William saw in Amara a strong girl, but one who desperately needed someone to help her release the burden she bore. Io, at 10 years old, was the opposite. She sought escape in playfulness, always trying to make her sisters laugh and forget their pain. Io's energy was contagious, but William could see that beneath her joy was a child trying to shield herself from the reality of their situation. If, at 8, was quiet and introspective. She spoke little, and William feared that her silence masked a deep inner isolation. The twins, Nima and Zola, only 6 years old, were too young to fully grasp the tragedy, but their confusion and sadness were palpable. Finally, there was Chiamaka, the baby of the family at 4 years old, who didn't fully understand what had happened but felt the absence of her parents in a way that was both painful and incomprehensible. The adoption process, as expected, was long and complicated. William faced many barriers, both bureaucratic and emotional. As a single white man seeking to adopt 6 black girls, he encountered skepticism and questioning from social services and society alike. But nothing deterred him. He attended every court hearing with unwavering determination, answering every probing question with calm confidence. "Why do you want to adopt all 6?" a social worker once asked him. William looked at the girls sitting in the waiting room and without hesitation replied, "Because they need someone to love them and keep them together. I'm that person." His resolve, driven by an unshakable love, pushed him forward, even when the path seemed daunting. As the legal process advanced, William realized that he was learning just as much as the girls were. He faced challenges he had never anticipated, Understanding the racial and cultural complexities of raising black girls in a predominantly white society and learning how to help them heal from the deep emotional wounds of losing their parents. He spent hours reading books, watching documentaries, and educating himself about African culture. William wanted to ensure that despite the racial differences, his daughters would never feel disconnected from their roots. This commitment became personal for him, and he began incorporating elements of their heritage into their everyday lives, from the stories he told them at bedtime to the foods he prepared for their meals. When the adoption was finally official, it was a moment of overwhelming emotion for everyone. The girls who had once been unsure of their future now looked at William as their father. He was no longer just the police officer who had found them after the tragedy. He was the man who had fought to keep them together, who had ensured they would not be separated. The day he signed the final adoption papers was marked by a sense of relief and love. As they left the courthouse, William took the girls to the house he had meticulously prepared for them. "Welcome home," he said with a smile, and for the first time, he saw something in the girls' eyes that had been missing for a long time: hope. Their new home was spacious, with a large backyard William knew the girls would love. He had thought about every detail: rooms decorated according to each girl's personality, a big living room where they could all spend time together, and a large kitchen where he envisioned cooking meals for his new family. When they entered the house for the first time, the girls stood in silence, taking it all in. William watched them closely, searching for signs of approval. Ayo was the first to break the silence, running down the hallway towards what would be her room. "It's huge!" she shouted, her voice full of excitement. Amara, more reserved, simply smiled and nodded, and William knew he had made the right choice. In the early days at the new house, William focused on creating a routine that would bring stability to the girls' lives. He knew that structure was important, especially during such a significant transition. Every morning he would wake up early to prepare breakfast for everyone before driving them to school. Even if the mornings were sometimes filled with silence, William saw in their small gestures that they were beginning to feel safe. Emotional security was his top priority. He knew that without it, it would be difficult to build the trust and bond that he so deeply desired to create with them. At night, after long days of work and school, William started a tradition that became the cornerstone of their family connection. They would gather in the living room, turn off the lights, and William would tell stories he had learned from his research into African cultures or folk tales he had created himself. The girls, especially Ife and Chiamaka, seemed to find comfort in these stories, as if the words brought them a sense of belonging. "What happens next, Daddy?" Chiamaka would ask in her soft voice. The word daddy, which she had recently started using, filled William with indescribable joy. Every night the stories grew longer, and with each passing evening, the bond between them deepened. The transition was not without its difficulties. Despite their progress, the girls still faced moments of deep sadness. There were nights when they woke up crying, haunted by nightmares of the accident that had taken their parents. On those nights, William would quietly get out of bed and sit beside them, holding their small hands and whispering comforting words. "I'm here now," he would say in a low, steady voice. "You're safe." He knew he couldn't erase their pain, but he could offer them what they had lost in the accident: security, love, and a home where they would always be protected. As time went on, the girls began to trust William more, and he also grew more confident in his role as their father. He realized that he was learning just as much from them as they were from him. In moments of uncertainty, he reminded himself of one thing: love, patience, and faith were the keys to overcoming any challenge. And so, day by day, he and his daughters built a new life together, a life that, though marked by tragedy at the beginning, was now guided by hope, perseverance, and the courage to move forward. William Johnson knew from the start that being a single white man raising 6 black daughters would present challenges he couldn't fully prepare for. The stares from strangers when they went out as a family were immediate and unmistakable. People couldn't help but glance twice, confused by the visual contrast. At the grocery store, at the park, even at school drop-offs, William could feel the judgmental eyes. "Is that really their father?" some would whisper. Others were more direct, with curious questions about how he, a white man, ended up with 6 black girls. At first, William didn't know how to respond to these situations, but over time, he developed a thick skin and a quick smile, understanding that people's ignorance was not his burden to carry. But the challenges weren't just external. Inside the home, William was constantly learning, adjusting, and rethinking what he knew about raising children. The cultural differences between him and the girls were apparent in small ways. Simple things like hair care became learning experiences for him. He quickly realized that caring for black hair was different and he needed help. William reached out to black friends, read online forums, and watched countless YouTube videos to educate himself on the proper products and techniques. "Daddy, you did my hair wrong again," Ife once said, half giggling, half exasperated. William laughed it off, determined to get better. His goal was not just to be their father, but to ensure they felt seen and respected in every aspect of their identity. Despite his determination, William faced moments of self-doubt. "Am I doing enough for them?" he often wondered late at night. Raising 6 daughters alone was hard enough, but raising 6 black daughters as a white man came with layers of complexity that he had never anticipated. There were conversations he felt ill-equipped to have, about race, about discrimination, about the subtle ways the world might treat them differently because of the color of their skin. William knew he couldn't shield them from everything, but he vowed to prepare them as best as he could. He started attending diversity workshops, learning from other transracial adoptive parents, and gaining insights into how to guide his daughters through these difficult conversations. One day, Amara came home from school upset. "They asked me why my dad is white," she said, her voice filled with frustration. William sat with her, heart heavy, knowing that these types of questions would become more frequent as the girls grew older. "People are always going to have opinions about us," William explained gently, "but what matters is how we feel about ourselves. You're my daughter, and that's what's important." He could see that his words provided some comfort, but he also knew that this was just the beginning of a lifelong journey for his daughters to navigate their identities in a world that would constantly challenge them. Over time, William developed a network of support. He sought out other multiracial families and became close to some members of the local black community who offered guidance and solidarity. These relationships became crucial, not only for William but for the girls as well. They now had other role models who looked like them, who shared their cultural experiences, and who could offer perspectives that William couldn't. One such figure was Madre Miriam, a woman from their church who took a special interest in the family. She would often come by the house, sharing stories, cooking traditional meals, and offering wisdom that helped the girls connect with their heritage. William knew he couldn't do it all alone, and he was grateful for the support. As the girls grew, the differences in their experiences compared to William's became more evident. When Ayo started middle school, she began facing more overt forms of racism. "Some kids called me a name today," she told William one evening, tears welling in her eyes. William felt a surge of anger, but he knew he had to stay calm for Ayo's sake. "What they said is not who you are," he told her, sitting down at the kitchen table with her. "You're strong, Ayo, and you know your worth. Never let anyone take that from you." He encouraged her to speak up for herself, but also reminded her that she didn't have to carry these burdens alone. The family was there for her always. The girls began to rely on each other more as they faced these outside pressures. Amara, in particular, became a protector for her younger sisters, especially in school. Whenever one of them faced racism or teasing, Amara was the first to step in. William watched this dynamic develop with a mix of pride and concern. He didn't want Amara to feel like she had to bear the weight of these struggles alone, but he also admired her courage and leadership. It was clear that the challenges they faced as a multiracial family were making them stronger, more united. They were learning to support each other in ways that went beyond what William could teach them. Even as the girls found strength in one another, William made it a point to have individual time with each of them, to ensure they knew they were loved for who they were as individuals. He wanted them to understand that their identity was not just about race, but about their unique talents, dreams, and personalities. One Saturday, he took Ife to a bookstore. She had recently developed a love for reading, and William wanted to nurture that. "Pick any book you want," he told her, watching her eyes light up as she wandered through the aisles. Ife chose a book of African folk tales, and that night, William read one of the stories to all the girls, bringing a sense of connection to their heritage. The complexity of being a multiracial family extended beyond the girls' experiences with racism. William also faced criticism from within the black community. There were people who questioned whether he, as a white man, could truly understand the cultural and emotional needs of his daughters. These doubts weighed on him, but William chose to face them head-on. He had open conversations with those who were willing to engage, listening to their concerns and explaining his deep love and commitment to his daughters. Over time, many in the community came to see his sincerity and dedication, though William knew there would always be those who doubted his ability to raise 6 black girls in a way that honored their identity. As William and the girls navigated these external challenges, they also grew closer as a family. Despite the societal pressures and the complexities of their situation, their love for one another deepened. They became each other's refuge. Family game nights, trips to the beach, and quiet evenings spent watching movies together became sacred traditions, moments where they could all relax and just be a family without the weight of the world's judgments hanging over them. "No matter what anyone says, we're a family," William would remind them often, "and nothing can take that away from us." And yet, William knew that their journey was far from over. The challenges of being a multiracial family were ongoing, and as the girls grew older, new complexities would arise. But William was ready. With each challenge they faced, they grew stronger, more united, and more resilient. They had built a foundation of love, perseverance, and courage, and that was what mattered most. There was still so much ahead, but William felt confident that together they could face whatever came their way. As the years passed, William watched each of his 6 daughters grow into unique individuals with their own dreams, passions, and talents. The house was always alive with activity, filled with the laughter, frustrations, and milestones of growing up. Amara, the oldest, had always been the protector of her younger sisters. Over time, she developed a deep passion for social justice. Watching the world around her, she became acutely aware of issues of inequality and injustice, particularly affecting black communities. It wasn't long before she decided she wanted to pursue a career in social work. "I want to make sure no one has to go through what we did," she told William one day. He saw the fire in her eyes, the drive to create change, and he knew she would make a difference in the world. Ayo, the second oldest, found her passion in the arts. She had always been the creative one, drawing and painting whenever she could find a quiet moment. As she grew older, her talent became undeniable. Her bedroom walls were covered with her vibrant, expressive paintings, each one telling a story that came from deep within her. One day, she showed William a painting she had been working on for weeks, a powerful piece depicting their family in vibrant colors. "This is how I see us," Ayo said, smiling proudly. William stood in awe of her talent, knowing that she had found a way to channel her emotions into something beautiful. "You've got a gift," he told her, "and the world is going to see it one day." Meanwhile, Ife, the quiet and introspective one, blossomed academically. She had always been a bookworm, and as she entered high school, her love for literature only deepened. Ife found solace in the pages of novels, often losing herself in stories that reflected her own struggles with identity and belonging. She began writing her own short stories, many of which centered on themes of loss, love, and resilience. One evening, she handed William a short story she had written, nervously asking for his feedback. William read it, his heart swelling with pride. "This is amazing, Ife. You have a real gift with words," he said, and from that day on he made it his mission to encourage her to keep writing, knowing that her voice needed to be heard. The twins, Nima and Zola, were always full of energy and seemed to thrive in any physical activity they could find. From a young age, they had been competitive with each other, always racing, jumping, and climbing whatever they could. William recognized their natural athleticism early on and signed them up for various sports. It didn't take long for the girls to shine. particularly in track and field. Nima became a sprinter, while Zola excelled in the long jump. Their dedication to their training was impressive, and William loved attending their meets, cheering them on from the sidelines. "You're both going to the Olympics one day," he would joke, though deep down he believed it might not be a far-off dream. Chiamaka, the youngest, had a heart full of compassion. From the time she was small, she was always the one comforting her sisters when they were upset, offering a kind word or a gentle hug. As she grew older, this innate empathy blossomed into a desire to help others. Chiamaka became involved in community service at a young age, volunteering at local shelters and organizing charity events through her school. "I just want to help people," she would tell William, her big brown eyes full of sincerity. Her kindness touched everyone she met, and William knew that she was destined to make a difference in the world in her own way, just as her sisters would. As the girls pursued their individual paths, they also remained deeply connected as a family. They supported one another through every success and failure, creating a bond that only grew stronger over time. William watched with pride as they leaned on each other, each of them understanding that their strength came from the love and support they shared. Whenever one of them faced a challenge, whether it was a difficult test at school or a setback in a competition, the others were there to offer encouragement and remind them of their potential. "We've been through so much together," Amara would often say. "Nothing can break us now." But it wasn't just about the successes. William made sure that the girls understood the importance of perseverance and resilience, especially when things didn't go their way. When Io's first art exhibition received mixed reviews, she was devastated. "Maybe I'm not as good as I thought," she said, tears welling up in her eyes. William sat down with her, gently reminding her that failure was a part of every artist's journey. "This doesn't define you," he told her. "What matters is how you keep going, how you keep creating." Those words stuck with Ao, and within weeks, she was back at her easel, more determined than ever. There were also moments of deep reflection as the girls began to understand the complexities of their own identities. Growing up as black girls in a white father's household brought challenges, particularly as they navigated the world outside their home. Each of them had their own way of dealing with questions of race, belonging, and identity. William made it a point to have open conversations with them, encouraging them to explore their heritage and to be proud of who they were. "You are all so unique, and that's your power," he would tell them. "The world might not always understand you, but you have to understand yourselves." Their bond with William only strengthened as they grew older. The respect and love they had for him as a father was evident in the way they turned to him for advice, support, and guidance. Amara, despite her independent spirit, often sought William's counsel on issues of social justice. "How do I make people listen?" she asked him once, frustrated by the apathy she encountered in her activism. William, always the calm and thoughtful father, advised her to lead with compassion and persistence. "People will listen to your heart if you speak from it," he told her, and Amara took that advice to heart, becoming a powerful advocate for the causes she believed in. As the girls flourished, William found himself marveling at how far they had come. The little girls he had once held close after a devastating loss were now strong, confident young women, each carving out her own path in the world. He often reflected on how their journeys were shaped not just by the tragedy they had faced, but by the strength they had found within themselves and within their family. "We're a team," William would often remind them. "We face everything together." It was a mantra that had guided them through the darkest of times and now carried them into the bright futures that awaited each of them. In moments of quiet, William would sometimes sit back and watch his daughters interact, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude. They had faced so many challenges, both individually and as a family, but they had persevered. Each of the girls had found her own way of expressing herself, of contributing to the world, and of making a difference. William knew that no matter what came next, they were prepared for it. The values of love, resilience, and courage had been ingrained in them, and they would carry those lessons with them for the rest of their lives. Even though they had come so far, William knew that their journey was still just beginning. Each of his daughters had big dreams, and he had no doubt that they would achieve them. The family they had built together, founded on love and perseverance, was unbreakable. And as William looked toward the future, he felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that his daughters were ready to take on the world. From the moment William adopted his 6 daughters, he knew that one of the biggest challenges they would face as a family would be navigating the complex issues of race and identity. Being a white father raising 6 black daughters in a predominantly white neighborhood came with challenges he couldn't have fully anticipated. The girls, though loved and cherished at home, were often confronted with the harsh reality of prejudice in their daily lives. The first signs of this appeared as they started school. Amara, being the oldest, was the first to experience the sting of racism. She came home one day, visibly upset, after some classmates had made comments about her skin color. "They said I don't belong," she told William, her voice trembling with hurt. William's heart sank as he realized that no matter how much love he provided at home, the world outside was far less kind. For William, it was a learning curve as much as it was for his daughters. He had never experienced racism personally, but seeing his daughters go through it brought the issue painfully close. He quickly realized that he needed to prepare them for these moments of ignorance and hatred. "People fear what they don't understand," he told them one evening after another incident at school. "But that's their problem, not yours. You are beautiful, strong, and worthy, no matter what anyone says." William's words were meant to comfort them, but he knew that his daughters needed more than just reassurance. They needed the tools to navigate a world that would sometimes see them as different, simply because of the color of their skin. Amara, ever the leader among her sisters, began to educate herself on the history of racism and civil rights. She became involved in student activism, determined to challenge the prejudices she and her sisters faced. "I want to fight this, Dad," she said one night as they sat together at the kitchen table. William, though proud of her determination, worried about the weight of the burden she was carrying. "You don't have to take on the world by yourself," he reminded her gently, "but I'll support you every step of the way." William knew that Amara's strength was both a blessing and a heavy responsibility, and he wanted to ensure she had the support she needed to navigate these challenging waters. Io, on the other hand, took a different approach to facing prejudice. As an artist, she channeled her experiences into her work. Her paintings began to reflect the struggles she and her sisters faced as black girls growing up in a white community. One of her most powerful pieces was a self-portrait that depicted her standing tall, surrounded by shadows of doubt and discrimination. "This is how I feel sometimes," Io explained to William one evening, showing him the painting. "But I won't let those shadows define me." William was moved by her resilience and her ability to express such deep emotions through art. He encouraged her to keep painting, knowing that it was her way of processing the world around her. For the younger girls, especially the twins Nima and Zola, the concept of racism was harder to grasp. They were still young and didn't fully understand why some kids treated them differently. "Why don't they like us?" Nima asked William after a particularly rough day at school. William struggled to find the right words, not wanting to introduce his daughters to the harsh realities of the world too soon, but also knowing that he needed to prepare them for the future. "Sometimes people don't like what they don't understand," he explained softly. "But that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. You are perfect just the way you are." He made it his mission to foster a sense of pride in their identity, teaching them about their heritage and ensuring they felt confident in who they were. Cultural differences also became more evident as the girls grew older. William, being white, knew that he couldn't fully understand the black experience, but he made it his priority to ensure that his daughters were connected to their roots. He sought out black mentors and role models in the community who could provide guidance and support in ways that he couldn't. One of the most influential figures in their lives was Madre Miriam, a strong, wise woman from their church. She became a maternal figure to the girls, teaching them about their culture, their history, and their worth. "You come from a lineage of kings and queens," Madre Miriam would tell them during her visits. "Never let anyone make you feel less than that." The girls also faced subtle forms of racism from teachers and peers who underestimated their abilities. William noticed that their accomplishments were often overlooked, or they were subjected to assumptions about their intelligence and character based on stereotypes. When Ife, the quiet and brilliant writer, was told by a teacher that her writing was surprisingly good for someone like her, William knew he needed to intervene. He met with the school administration, advocating fiercely for his daughters. "They are not just good for who they are," he told them. "They are exceptional, and you need to recognize that." William's advocacy became a regular part of his role as a father, always ensuring that his daughters were treated with the respect and fairness they deserved. As the girls grew older and more aware of the world around them, they also began to notice the difference in how they were treated compared to their white friends. This was particularly hard for Chiamaka, the youngest, who struggled to understand why she was sometimes left out of activities or treated differently by her classmates. "Why don't they invite me to their parties?" she asked William one day, her eyes full of confusion. William's heart ached for her, knowing that these early experiences with exclusion would shape how she saw the world. "It's not about you, sweetheart," he said gently. "Sometimes people make bad choices, but that doesn't mean you're any less special." Despite the prejudice they faced, the girls found strength in each other and in their family. They became each other's greatest allies, always ready to defend and support one another. If one of them faced discrimination at school, the others were quick to rally around her, offering words of encouragement and love. William watched with pride as they navigated these challenges together, their bond growing stronger with each obstacle they overcame. "We're stronger together," Amara would often say, reminding her sisters that no matter what the world threw at them, they would always have each other. William also made sure to create an environment at home where the girls could express their feelings and frustrations freely. They would often have family discussions at the dinner table, talking about their experiences with prejudice and how it made them feel. William would listen attentively, offering advice and support, but also empowering them to find their own voices. "You're all strong, intelligent, and capable," he would tell them. "Don't ever let anyone make you doubt that." Over time, the girls became more confident in facing prejudice. They learned how to stand up for themselves and for each other, never backing down in the face of ignorance. William was incredibly proud of how they handled themselves, but he also knew that the battle against prejudice would be a lifelong journey for them. He made a promise to himself that he would always be there to support them, no matter what. Together they would continue to face the world with courage, resilience, and an unbreakable bond. As time passed, William realized that he and his daughters were not alone in their journey. The local community, which at first had been distant and somewhat skeptical, began to embrace the Johnson family. It started with small gestures, neighbors offering to help with babysitting or bringing over home-cooked meals. But over time, the community's involvement grew into something much more meaningful. William had always known that raising 6 daughters on his own would be a challenge, but the support they began to receive from their local neighborhood and church was a blessing he hadn't fully anticipated. "You're not in this alone," a kind neighbor had told him one day, after offering to take the girls to a community event. Slowly but surely, William began to see that this new extended family would play a crucial role in the upbringing of his daughters. One of the most important figures in this network of support was Madre Miriam, a leader in their local church. A proud and wise woman, she took a particular interest in the Johnson family from the moment they started attending services. Madre Miriam had a reputation in the community for being a mentor, someone who guided young people and offered wisdom in times of need. She saw in William's daughters the potential for greatness, but also understood the challenges they faced, particularly in navigating their identities as black girls raised by a white father. "These girls are special, William," she would often say after Sunday services, her deep voice full of warmth. "But they need to know where they come from. They need to stay connected to their roots." Madre Miriam became a regular presence in their home, not only offering spiritual guidance, but also teaching the girls about their cultural heritage. She would come over on weekends, bringing traditional African foods for the family to share, and would sit with the girls to tell them stories from the African diaspora, tales of strength, perseverance, and hope. "You come from a long line of warriors and queens," she would say, her eyes twinkling as she captivated them with her words. Never forget that. These visits became treasured moments for the girls, who absorbed Madre Miriam's teachings like sponges, understanding more and more about where they came from and what it meant to be proud of their heritage. The community's support wasn't just spiritual or emotional, it was practical too. When William faced challenges managing his time between work and taking care of his daughters, the community rallied around him. Local businesses and families offered help, from driving the girls to their various activities to contributing to school fundraisers. There was a growing recognition that this wasn't just William's family, it was their family too. At neighborhood gatherings, William often felt a sense of relief, knowing that there were others watching out for his daughters when he couldn't be there. "You've got a whole village behind you," a neighbor once told him, a sentiment that William would come to appreciate more with each passing year. For the girls, the community became a safe haven. They knew they could count on the people around them, not just their father, to guide them and offer support when needed. Amara, who had become increasingly involved in social justice causes, found a mentor in one of the local community organizers. "You've got a fire inside you," her mentor told her during one of their first meetings, "and we're going to help you use it to create real change." With this encouragement, Amara began working with local groups, organizing events, and advocating for marginalized voices. William was proud of her drive, but even more so, he was grateful for the mentors who helped her channel her passion into meaningful action. Io, too, found her place in the community. Her talent for painting had not gone unnoticed, and soon she was invited to showcase her work at local art fairs and community events. The recognition she received from her neighbors boosted her confidence, and she began to see herself not just as a girl with a hobby, but as an artist with a message. "Your art speaks to people," one local artist told her during an exhibition. "You have a gift, Io. Don't stop creating." William attended every event, standing proudly by her side as she displayed her paintings. The community's support gave Io the push she needed to continue pursuing her dream of becoming a professional artist. For Ife, the quiet and introspective daughter, the support came in the form of local writers' groups and book clubs that welcomed her with open arms. William found a group of writers in the area who met weekly to discuss literature and share their own work, and he encouraged Ife to join. At first she was hesitant, unsure if her writing would be accepted or if she would fit in, but when she finally gathered the courage to attend, she was embraced wholeheartedly. "You've got a voice that needs to be heard," one of the group members told her after hearing her read a short story. Ife began attending regularly, and with the encouragement of her peers, she continued to grow as a writer, finding solace and strength in the written word. The twins, Nima and Zola, thrived in the community's sports programs. Their athletic talents had always been apparent, but it was through the local track and field teams that they truly found their place. Coaches and teammates alike admired their dedication and competitive spirit. "These girls are going places," their coach would often say, impressed by their commitment to excellence. William loved watching them compete, always standing on the sidelines with a smile on his face. The community's support of their athletic endeavors not only helped Nima and Zola excel in their sport, but also gave them the confidence to dream big. Olympic dreams, they often joked, with serious determination in their eyes. Chiamaka, the youngest, found her passion in helping others, and the community became her platform for giving back. She started volunteering at local shelters and food drives, often bringing her sisters along to help. "It feels good to help people," she told William after one particularly busy day at the community center. The support she received from the community made her feel empowered, and she quickly became known as a kind and compassionate soul, always willing to lend a hand. William couldn't have been prouder of how his youngest had found her place in the world, driven by empathy and a desire to make a difference. As the years passed, the Johnson family became deeply intertwined with the fabric of the community. They were no longer just recipients of support. They were active contributors, helping to build a stronger, more connected neighborhood. William often reflected on how different things might have been without the help of those around him. "It takes a village," he would say to himself, realizing just how true that statement had become. The community had not only helped him raise his daughters, but had also shown them the power of compassion, unity, and collective action. Even though the challenges of raising a multiracial family remained, the sense of belonging and the relationships they had built within the community made all the difference. The girls had found mentors, friends, and opportunities that enriched their lives in ways William could never have imagined. And for William, the support he received as a father was invaluable. He knew that no matter what obstacles lay ahead, he and his daughters had a strong, loving community behind them, ready to lift them up when needed. As the years went by and William's daughters flourished, life seemed to have settled into a comfortable rhythm. But just when they felt they had found their stride, an unexpected challenge arose, one that would test their strength as a family in a way they had never anticipated. William, always healthy and energetic, began to notice small, unsettling changes in his body. It started with a persistent cough, something he brushed off as a cold or allergies. But when the cough lingered for weeks and his energy began to wane, he knew it was time to see a doctor. The news he received was nothing short of devastating. William was diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer. The weight of the diagnosis hit him like a ton of bricks. How could this be happening? He had always been active, always taking care of himself. His first thought wasn't for himself, but for his daughters. What would happen to them? How could he be there for them while battling such a serious illness? The fear of leaving them without a father, after everything they had already endured, consumed his thoughts. But William, being the man of strength and determination that he was, knew he couldn't afford to give up. He had fought for his daughters before, and now he would fight for them again, this time for his life. When William sat the girls down to tell them about his diagnosis, the air in the room grew heavy with a mix of fear and disbelief. Amara, always the strong one, was the first to speak. "We'll get through this, Dad," she said, her voice steady, though her eyes betrayed the worry she felt. Io sat quietly, tears brimming in her eyes, while Ife looked down, unable to meet his gaze. The twins, Nima and Zola, clutched each other's hands, trying to process the news, and little Chiamaka crawled onto William's lap, holding him tightly. "We're a family," William told them, his voice firm but gentle. "And no matter what happens, we face this together." The next few months were a whirlwind of doctor appointments, treatments, and long days spent in hospitals. William had to undergo chemotherapy, a process that left him physically drained and emotionally exhausted. The girls, who had always relied on their father for strength, now found themselves in the unfamiliar role of caretakers. Amara, being the oldest, took on the responsibility of helping around the house. She made sure her younger sisters got to school on time, did their homework, and even took over some of the cooking. "It's okay, Dad," she would say, when he apologized for not being able to do more. "We've got this." Io, who had always been the emotional heart of the family, struggled to keep her emotions in check. She would often retreat to her room, painting furiously, to release the anxiety and fear that overwhelmed her. Her artwork took on a darker tone during this time, shadows and stormy skies, faces filled with sorrow. But one day, she showed William a new painting, one filled with bright colors and light. "This is how I see us," she explained. "No matter how dark things get, there's always hope." William smiled through his tears, knowing that his daughter had captured something profound, that even in the darkest moments, their love for one another would guide them through. If, always the quiet and introspective one, processed her father's illness in her own way. She spent hours writing in her journal, pouring her thoughts and fears onto the pages. One night, she showed William a poem she had written about their family's strength. "We are the tree that bends, but never breaks," it began, and as William read her words, he felt a deep sense of pride. His daughters were resilient, just as he had taught them to be. They were finding ways to cope, to support him, and to support each other, even when the future felt uncertain. The younger girls, Nima, Zola, and Chiamaka, struggled to understand the full gravity of William's illness. For them, seeing their father weak and unable to play with them as he once did was confusing and scary. William made it a point to spend time with them whenever he could, even on his worst days. They would sit on his bed and he would tell them stories or watch movies with them, reminding them that no matter how sick he felt, his love for them had not changed. "We'll be okay," he would say, though sometimes he wasn't sure if he was saying it for their sake or his own. As the months went on, the toll of chemotherapy became more evident. William lost weight, his hair thinned, and there were days when he could barely get out of bed. But through it all, his daughters remained by his side, giving him the strength to keep fighting. They learned to navigate this new reality together, adjusting to the ebb and flow of his illness. When William was too weak to attend their school events or sports competitions, the girls would record everything, so he wouldn't miss out. "You're still a part of this, Dad," Nima said one day, showing him a video of her latest track meet. William watched with a mix of pride and heartache, knowing that he was missing so much, yet grateful for the love and dedication his daughters showed him every day. The community also stepped in to support the Johnson family during this difficult time. Friends and neighbors organized meal trains, helped with household chores, and even drove the girls to their various activities when William couldn't. Madre Miriam, ever the pillar of strength, came by frequently to offer prayers and comfort, reminding the girls that they were not alone in this fight. "God has a plan for all of us," she would say, her voice steady and full of faith. "And your father is a fighter. He's not giving up, and neither should you." Against the odds, William began to show signs of improvement after months of treatment. His doctors were cautiously optimistic, and the family clung to the hope that their father would recover. It was a long, arduous journey, but William's determination never wavered. He drew strength from his daughters, knowing that they needed him as much as he needed them. Slowly, he began to regain his strength. The days spent in bed became fewer, and soon he was able to attend their school events again, though he moved more slowly than before. The girls' joy at seeing their father return to some semblance of his former self was palpable. They had faced one of the darkest times of their lives together, and had come out the other side, stronger and more united than ever. When William's cancer went into remission, it was a moment of profound relief and celebration for the entire family. They had fought this battle together, and their bond had only grown stronger because of it. The girls had learned lessons of resilience, perseverance, and the power of love during their father's illness, lessons that would stay with them for the rest of their lives. William knew that he had been given a second chance, and he vowed to make the most of it, cherishing every moment with his daughters. Though the scars of his illness remained, both physical and emotional, William emerged from the experience with a renewed sense of purpose. He knew that life was fragile and precious, and he was determined to spend his remaining years giving back not only to his family, but to the community that had supported him through his darkest days. Together, they had faced an unimaginable challenge, and together, they had prevailed. After months of battling cancer and overcoming what felt like insurmountable odds, William Johnson found himself reflecting on his journey, not just as a survivor, but as a father, a man whose life had been profoundly shaped by his daughters and the community that stood by him. As he recovered, William realized that everything he had gone through had given him a new perspective on life, one that was not about merely surviving, but about leaving a lasting legacy for his daughters and others who faced similar struggles. He was no longer just a police officer or a single father who had adopted 6 girls. He was a man who had fought through adversity and wanted to give back in a meaningful way. The idea for the William Johnson Foundation was born during one of his many quiet moments of reflection. One evening, as he sat with his daughters around the dinner table, they discussed how they had been supported by so many people, neighbors, friends, mentors like Madre Miriam, and how much that support had meant to them. Amara, always the thoughtful one, spoke up. "Dad, we wouldn't have made it without all these people. We should do something to help other families like ours." Her words struck William deeply. She was right. They had received so much help, and now it was their turn to pay it forward. The girls, each in their own way, rallied behind the idea of creating a foundation that would support families going through the adoption process or struggling with serious health issues like they had. William, energized by their enthusiasm, began working with his daughters to outline the mission and purpose of the foundation. "We'll help people who are trying to adopt like you did with us," Ayo said, her artistic mind already imagining the logo and branding for the foundation. "And we'll make sure they have the resources to get through it," Ife added, always thinking practically and deeply about the impact they could have. The family spent weeks brainstorming and planning, coming together each evening to discuss what the foundation could accomplish. They decided that the William Johnson Foundation would focus on two main areas: supporting families in the adoption and foster care process, and providing financial and emotional support to those dealing with life-threatening illnesses, particularly cancer. The goal was simple but powerful: give back the love and support that had been given to them during their darkest times. Launching the foundation was no small task, but the community once again rallied around the Johnson family. Friends, neighbors, and local businesses offered their expertise, donations, and time to help get the foundation off the ground. Amara took the lead on organizing fundraising events, using her growing network from her activism work to bring in influential speakers and donors. She was passionate about ensuring that no child in the foster care system would feel abandoned or unloved. "We were lucky," she often said, "but so many others aren't. We have to change that." William watched her work with pride, knowing that his eldest daughter was turning her pain into a force for good. Ayo, with her artistic flair, designed all the promotional materials for the foundation. Her paintings, now full of color and hope, became central to their fundraising campaigns. She even auctioned off some of her most prized pieces, raising thousands of dollars for the cause. "I want my art to mean something," she told William, and it was clear that her heart was fully invested in the mission of the foundation. Her work not only brought in much-needed funds, but also inspired others to get involved, proving that creativity could be a powerful tool for change. The twins, Nima and Zola, threw themselves into organizing community sports events as part of the foundation's outreach. Their competitive spirit drove them to plan charity races and sports tournaments, with all proceeds going to support children in the foster care system. "We know what it's like to need a family," Zola explained during one of their events. "We want to make sure every kid knows that someone cares." Their efforts attracted local athletes and sports enthusiasts who came together to compete and raise money for the cause. Even Aif, who had always been more reserved, found her voice through the foundation. She began writing stories and articles about the importance of family, community, and resilience, which were published on the foundation's website and in local newspapers. Her words touched the hearts of many, bringing attention to the struggles of children in foster care and the emotional toll of battling serious illness. "Stories have power," Aif told William one night. "They can make people see things they wouldn't otherwise understand." And through her writing, she made people see the importance of the foundation's work. Chiamaka, the youngest, was the heart of the foundation's volunteer outreach program. Her natural compassion and empathy made her the perfect person to lead efforts in recruiting volunteers and organizing community service projects. She visited schools, churches, and local organizations, spreading the word about the foundation and encouraging others to get involved. "We can make a difference," she would say during her speeches, her voice filled with conviction. And people listened. Under her leadership, the foundation's volunteer base grew rapidly, with people of all ages signing up to help make a difference. The first year of the foundation's work was a resounding success. They were able to provide financial assistance to dozens of families going through the adoption process, ensuring that no child would be left without a loving home due to financial barriers. They also funded cancer treatments for several families, easing the burden of medical bills and offering emotional support through their network of volunteers. William, who had once feared that his illness would leave his daughters without a father, now found himself at the center of a movement that was changing lives for the better. As the foundation grew, so did William's sense of purpose. He realized that the legacy he was building wasn't just about the money they raised or the families they helped. It was about the values he had instilled in his daughters. Through their work with the foundation, they were living out the lessons of love, compassion, perseverance, and faith that he had tried so hard to teach them over the years. "You're making me proud every day," William would tell his daughters, and it was clear that the feeling was mutual. They had faced unimaginable challenges as a family, but together they had turned their pain into something beautiful, something that would continue to help others for years to come. Looking back, William knew that adopting those 6 girls had been the best decision of his life. They had given him more than he could ever have imagined: love, purpose, and a legacy that would live on long after he was gone. The William Johnson Foundation was more than just an organization. It was a testament to the power of family, resilience, and the unshakable belief that, no matter the obstacles, love can conquer all. Now, after hearing William Johnson's story and the incredible journey of his 6 daughters, I have just one question for you. What will you do with the challenges life throws at you? Will you let them hold you back, or will you rise above them, like William and his daughters did? Remember, their story wasn't just about overcoming the odds. It was about transforming adversity into an opportunity for love, compassion, and change. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. What obstacles are standing in your way? What would happen if you faced them with the same courage and resilience this family did? Maybe it's time to rethink what you're capable of. If this story touched you, inspired you, or even made you think differently, don't stop here. Join us on this journey. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and stay connected. Together, we can learn, grow, and create our own legacy, just like William and his family did. Because at the end of the day, the real legacy we leave behind is the love we share and the lives we impact.